Maybe you've tried vibe coding in Cursor a few months ago, but it just didn't stick for you. Or maybe you're still skeptical of the idea that we as professional software developers should be letting AI write most of our code. Well, I'm telling you that right now, I'm seeing a real shift in how vibe coding or building software with AI is happening at the professional level. In this video, I'm going to show you the new workflow in Cursor and other tools like it that's taking vibe coding from hacky or fun side projects to the professional level on real projects, real products. It's changing the way that we build, and it's time that we embrace it. You know, I've been building professionally for 20 years, and I want to tell you why I'm actually excited and optimistic about this new way of building software, which I believe is becoming the new norm. So even if you're skeptical, or even if you feel like you've been slow to adopt these new AI tools, I want you to hear this. Look, vibe coding for professionals does not mean that AI is coming for our jobs or our business. And it does not mean that we're losing our craft and what we love most about creating and designing and building great software products. In fact, it's the opposite. If you're experienced in building software and you take pride in your taste and in your craft, then you're at a huge advantage in this new way of building with AI at the professional level. And if you're earlier in your career, as our industry is shifting to this new way of building with AI, you're at an advantage too, because you don't need to navigate the transition from the old way and the old workflows of building software to the new way that folks who've been around a few years need to deal with. By the way, my channel here on YouTube is focusing on building with AI. So if you're thinking about this, leave your top questions in the comments below and make sure that you're subscribed. Also, I'll be teaching a workshop on this coming up. So leave a comment and I'll make sure that you get in on that as well. Now, when it comes to building software with AI, in these last few years, there have been about 3 major step changes in our workflow. And I think that we're now entering the 3rd of these changes. I'll get to that in a minute, but how we got here is we started with, tab code completion. GitHub Copilot was probably the first mass adoption tool for this, where, you're writing a line of code and you see the line complete itself or a whole method sort of write itself out automatically with the help of AI. And then you can hit tab to accept it. That was, a few years ago now. And I remember when it came in and that was like a wow moment. Like, this is a lot better than hand typing every single character in our code base. Then agent mode really took off. And of course, this has been popularized with Cursor and Windsurf. And I think this is more or less where we are now. It's certainly where I have been myself in terms of my day-to-day building software workflow. I'm finding that I'm spending most, if not all of my time in agent mode in Cursor, writing prompts into the chat window and letting AI write most of the code in my code base. And this is definitely a level up from tabbing through these code completions line by line, or, copying and pasting code snippets from ChatGPT or Claude into my code base, because of course, tools like Cursor are integrated with my entire code base and they can make edits to multiple files at once. And so already we're doing a lot of building with AI. And that's certainly what my day-to-day building workflow has looked like up until now. And I'm building stuff faster than I have in years past. And I actually think better. I can be more ambitious about the types of things that I build. But you know what? Now that I've gotten used to this agent mode style of building with AI, I'm noticing some inefficiencies. I'm noticing that it actually seems like more work than it should be. For me, as someone who is experienced in full stack software design development, I do want to spoon feed the AI with detailed prompts. So I'm actually spending a lot of time writing and rewriting and drafting just the prompt text that I'm dropping into the Cursor chat window. It's still more efficient because the AI can build a lot more than I could myself, but I'm starting to feel how it's cumbersome and time consuming and physically tired. And that's why right now I am starting to embrace this new 3rd way of building with AI. And I'm starting to think of this like task directed development. It's sort of like the new TDD, test driven development, and tests actually really do have their place in this new workflow, maybe even more so than they did in years past. But at a high level, this new norm or this new current way of building software is what I like to think of as task-directed development. Now, there are some new tools popping up like Taskmaster, and Ryan Carson recently published some cursor rules that help to manage this high-level workflow. And I'm going to show you these here in just a second. But no matter which tooling you're using, I think the high-level workflow or the process for building out complex professional pieces of software is the same in this new way of doing it. So the concept is this: we start with a PRD, or a project requirements document. And this is where we, as the experienced human full stack designer, developer, this is where most of our experience and the stamp that we're going to put on our work comes into play. The PRD is the roadmap. It's the detail of the project that we are going to be working on. Then we turn that PRD into a list of high-level tasks. That's like your roadmap for this project from idea to shipped. Then we want to break down those tasks into smaller subtasks. This sounds just like a typical project that you might manage or direct a junior developer on, and that's exactly what this whole concept is modeled after. And then, of course, the AI is going to execute each task one by one in order, taking dependencies into account, while we, the experienced developer, can oversee and approve and course correct and really manage the whole project from start to finish. So this is what vibe coding at the professional level is looking like. We're moving away from spoon feeding cursor and agent mode with writing prompts all day long. And we're moving toward a more cohesive end-to-end project where we are front loading most of our creativity and effort and work and time on crafting a really well-written PRD, project requirement document, and then, building it out into a task list, and then having the AI execute our project while we oversee, direct, and it tracks its progress all the way through. This way reduces mistakes big time. It reduces those endless loops that we go through, fixing and undoing a lot of, code slop that comes from, just prompting cursor randomly all day. It brings order to the chaos that is kind of vibe coding and building with AI. And frankly, I'm finding it's a more enjoyable and relaxed and focused and actually creative approach to building out our software ideas. Okay, let me show you what this is actually looking like in practice. Now, I'm going to show you two different ways of doing this. One is using Taskmaster. That is a new tool that's getting really popular right now. It's a really interesting tool, really powerful. I'm going to walk through what this looks like. But I actually like a lighter weight version of this, which was created by Ryan Carson. It's a couple of cursor rules files and a process for using those. I'm liking this better, and I'm going to show you both because this is something that I could see myself really embracing and adapting. I think that's a really important part of this as well. But I'm going to start with Taskmaster. So you can, follow the instructions and get it all installed. I already have it installed on my system. I started up a new project. This is a fresh Ruby on Rails application I like to build in the Rails space. So I'm going to start by initializing Taskmaster on this project, Taskmaster init. And this is going to do a bunch of things. It's going to install this Taskmaster folder. So I'm just going to use these default settings that they have. Now, one more thing is you will need to put in your API keys for at least one of the models. I put in my Anthropic API key into both the cursor MCP JSON as well as the env file in my project. When I installed this, it also added an MCP to cursor. You can see this Taskmaster AI that's enabled. So what that essentially means is that when I'm prompting in cursor, I could just use natural language to trigger any of these tasks that are built into Taskmaster, including the first one, which is going to be generating the actual PRD document. So this first step in this new workflow is really the only part where I'm actually handwriting a bunch of content and ideas in a raw text format, because it's going to take my raw idea that I'm going to prompt, and then it's going to build a nicely formed, highly detailed PRD document. So Taskmaster provides this example PRD.txt. Let me show you that. And this is like the structure, of how it should be built out. This is sort of like a template. So I'm going to actually give it, the prompt for what I want to build here. And as a simple example, we're going to do a very simple to-do list application. have a prompt ready to go here. So all this is, and I just like personally wrote this. This is like a simple idea for a to-do list application, a couple bullet points of like the main features that I wanted to have, a couple notes about what type of project I've already set up. Now I'm asking it to, I want you to create a PRD. And since I'm using Taskmaster, I'm going to say using example prd.text. I might not even need that since I have that in the context window in Cursor, but I'm just going to include it anyway. And I'm going to go ahead and have it do that. And so now, the Claude essentially, but Taskmaster is using this format or this template, and it's taking this idea and it's turning it into a highly detailed PRD document. Okay, that's all set. And here it is. Here's the prd.text. And, it's got like core features, descriptions, and, some like functional and user experience notes, key user flows, UI, UX considerations, technical architecture. So I can actually go through this. And again, like as an experienced developer, I can go through and I can find the points that I think are incorrect or I want to, craft or rewrite. Like, for example, it's saying use Rails 7.1. Of course, I want to be using 8. And there's going to be a bunch of other, details in here that maybe I don't necessarily agree with or I want to be done differently. So that's where I can put my stamp on things. All right, next with Taskmaster, I can have it parse my PRD and turn it into a high-level list of tasks. So actually, the chat is already asking me if I want to proceed with that step. And it's saying, would you like me to run the parse PRD tool to automatically generate your initial development tasks? And yes, I do. So I'll just say yes. Easy enough. It noticed that I updated it to Rails 8. Interesting. Okay, so it finished that, and now we should be able to run Taskmaster list. Okay, so here we go. We have this high-level list. It gave us 12 tasks, and it's telling us what the next recommended task is, which is the first one. So let's take a look at this list some more. We've got status. In fact, the first step is already done because I've already set up the Rails project. It has prioritized the tasks. It also set up task dependencies, which is really interesting. And it doesn't yet have this complexity score because I haven't run that yet. I can run Taskmaster help to see what the commands are. So I'm going to do Taskmaster analyze complexity. This is going to actually have it look through all of the tasks in my list and do some research on the internet to find out like what's actually involved in all these individual tasks. Now, personally, this is one of those things about Taskmaster that it's not really clicking with me yet. This feels a little bit like it's too much. And I'm going to show you the other way of doing it using some cursor rules that Ryan Carson put together, which I really like. I'm going to show that next. But I just want to show Taskmaster here. So let's look at our task list again. And now that we've done the complexity analysis, we have these green, yellow, and red dots here. And that's, how complex is each task, right? The next step in this workflow is to take our high-level tasks and turn them into subtasks. Now, really, we should do this for like all of the tasks. So you could do something like expand all. That's probably what you would do for a normal project. In this case, let's just do one of them. Item number 7, that's a red dot. That means it's highly complex. That'll be implementation of the drag and drop functionality. We want to break that one out into multiple subtasks. So I'm going to do Taskmaster expand ID 7. That's, because we're on row number 7 there. Okay, so that's done. And once again, I'm going to list out my tasks. Oh, I forgot to do, I know it's with subtasks maybe. As you can see, I'm new to playing with Taskmaster, but yeah, here you go. So you've got your main tasks and then subtasks, 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, and so on. It tells us, here's the recommended next task, and I can instruct the AI to proceed with the next tasks or even proceed with multiple tasks according to our task list and the dependencies and the priority order. Just to show you what else is happening under the hood here. So underneath tasks, we've got these text documents, and these are sort of like the actual instructions that the AI will have for each individual task. And this starts to show you some of the power in terms of the workflow, right? Because normally I would, manually write these prompts, like spoon feeding these prompts one by one. But now it's all planned out in these pre-written task instructions. So now all I really need to do is say like, please proceed with the first task. So it's going straight into task 2 because task 1 was actually already finished, like setting up the Rails project. And I also have my cursor set up in cursor settings. You go to features, you want to enable auto run. They used to call this YOLO mode. Now it's called auto run. Check that box. They're going to show you a little warning that it's kind of scary. Don't worry. You do want to go ahead with that because every one of these little tasks that the cursor agent is doing, instead of needing to approve or let it run, tasks in the terminal and stuff like that, it can just auto run those without me needing to do anything. So I can sort of like watch its progress here, and I can see there are already some files being created. It's building out the task model. It found a little syntax error in something. It's checking that and it's going to fix that. It's trying a simpler approach. So it looks like something is going on. Okay, it got that sorted out and task number 2 is complete. All right, so let's look at our task list again. And so now we see some progress has been made there. And now you can see, task number 2 is done. The rest are still pending. And that's basically the workflow with using Taskmaster. Now, it's pretty cool. This is a really powerful tool. I could see why so many people are getting pretty excited about this. But I'll be honest, I'm finding this to be a little bit much. It's sort of like a lot of tooling. Really, I just want to get to the building. That's why I really appreciate this project that Ryan Carson put together. And he shared this on GitHub. It's basically like AI dev tasks for Cursor. And all it really is are these 3 Cursor rules files. And it's the same exact strategy or the same high level workflow, which is create the PRD, generate tasks from the PRD, and then process the task list. So it's a much lighter weight version. And I actually like it for that reason, but also because I could see places where I want to adapt this to my style and my specific needs and the types of products and projects that I'm working on, right? So yeah, let's play around with this a little bit. I'm going to go into this other fresh new project, and I have those 3 files installed under the .cursor folder, under rules, and then we have the create PRD .mdc file, generate tasks file, and process task lists. So right now, these are exactly as Ryan Carson had put them together. Now, I'm going to be tweaking these quite a bit as I go forward in my projects, because I can already see some places where I want to sort of build out and optimize my workflow. And as I learn more, I'm going to be posting more videos about that. But it does work really well, sort of like right out of the box. So we're going to start with this create PRD process. And it's very similar to before. We have the create PRD cursor rules in the context here. I'm going to paste in the same prompt that I pasted in last time for Taskmaster, where I'm saying I want to build out a simple to-do list application that has these features. Here's the checklist, some information about it. And let's see, do I need to actually reference anything? I don't think so, because we already have the create PRD instructions here. So we're going to go ahead and have it do that and see what happens. Okay, so the way that this one is set up is sort of interesting. Instead of going straight to creating the PRD just based on my raw prompt, I kind of like this. It has clarifying questions, right? So the process for creating a PRD is first ask clarifying questions, like what is the problem and the goal? Who's the target user? What are the user stories for this? So it took my raw prompt and it's asking those questions sort of adapted for my use case. Now, I do sort of think that a lot of these questions are it's a little much, but some of them are really kind of functional, and I can see all this being really useful. So I'm just going to answer like some of them and give it a little bit more information. And, I really don't need to type much. I'm just going to, go based on the numbers. So 1, let's do to expand, because it sort of gave me a few options. Now, normally I would put a lot more detail and thought into these questions. Data persistence, I want to use SQLite for this very simple database. So I'm just like answering these questions, trying to be as quick as possible. But you know what? AI is great at just understanding what I mean, because it asks these questions and I'm giving it my direct answer. So just nice and easy for me as the product owner and the project manager on this to just answer the questions, and let's get a nice, fully detailed PRD written out for us. So it's going ahead and it's creating that PRD. Okay, so here it is. I'm going to accept it. It placed this in tasks and then PRD to-do list, because this is like a to-do list application. That's what it named it. It's all in Markdown format. We've got the user stories. We've got some goals. We've got some functional requirements. It's all very organized, nice and easy to read. I'm actually finding that this, again, it's just easier for me to read, which means it's easier for me to go in and make edits to it. And again, that's where most of the work and the time and the effort should be going in. As professional designers, developers, product managers, product owners, this is the most important step. This is where we are putting our stamp on it before we, delegate it to our junior developer. In this case, our junior developer happens to be an AI agent in Cursor. All right, so that's good to go. So the next step is going to be to please generate tasks and use the generate tasks Cursor rules. I think that's all it should need. So I'm going to use that, and it's going to follow the instructions here in generate tasks, which is to start by creating this basic top level list of tasks. This is a markdown checklist. So unlike Taskmaster, where it all happens, like in the terminal, this is an actual markdown file that lives in my project under the tasks folder. So as we go along, it's going to, check these off with X's. So it generated a high level list of tasks based on the PRD. And so again, I can look at these, I can make edits to them, but it's asking if I want to just say go to proceed, meaning go means it's going to just go ahead with creating those subtasks. So again, like that whole system and process and workflow is already built in to these rules. So all I need to do is say go. All right, so now our sort of roadmap has been all built out. As you can see, we have a list of relevant files that it's going to build throughout the course of this project. It added some notes. And then of course, here is our task lists. And now every one of those tasks has 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, and so on. So we have a much more detailed roadmap and task list to get going on. Next, we're just going to have it, run through these tasks following our process task list instruction. So I'm going to add that process task list to the context here. And I'm going to say, let's proceed with the first task. And it's going to do it one at a time so I can check its work as it goes along. Now, I can already see a lot of places where I want to improve this process a little bit and make it a little bit more specific to my world of building Ruby on Rails apps. For example, I'll probably start to incorporate my instrumental components library into this, where I'll instruct it to use my components and my front-end designs and things in the projects that it builds out. This is just an example, so I'm foregoing that for now. As it goes along, it's going to finish the task, and then it's actually going to go back to our task list, and it's going to mark it off as completed as it goes along. Okay, so it did finish task 1.1, and it updated our task list. It marked that off as complete. I find that sometimes when I'm using this process, instead of just saying go to the next one, I might say do the next 3, all in one shot. And I start to, step back, maybe go grab a coffee or take a walk. And then I come back and another part of my project is already built out. So, this is a really exciting way of building. Just to show you, I have another version of this project going forward that I was doing earlier. I got all the way up to midway through step 3. And if I run the server on that, this is still sort of early on in this project, but as you can see, it actually did start to build out a task list. And, I think the next step up was to make it drag and drop. So not super impressive just yet because it's still early on. This is really more about the process, right? So, going from 1.0 up to 3.4 probably took about an hour. Of course, I'm still kind of learning my way through this whole workflow. But again, this is just something that I can continue to craft and use and bring more order to the chaos that has been vibe coding. And this feels like a more professional way of doing this in the real world. And that's why I believe this is going to be the new normal. This is taking that agent mode into that new professional way of building software. So I'll wrap it up here, but I am going to be posting a lot more videos on this new normal way of building with AI, vibe coding at a professional level. So if you have any questions about this, things that you're wondering about, drop them in the comments. I'll definitely cover it in an upcoming video. I have an upcoming workshop, so drop a comment and I'll get you in on that. Make sure you're subscribed. Let's build some stuff.